September 9, 2025, tensions in the South China Sea have exploded. A Philippine vessel on a routine mission was aggressively chased by two Chinese ships, ending in a collision. This was no accident. It's part of a deliberate pattern of risky behavior by China's maritime forces, Navy, Coast Guard, and maritime militia. These confrontations are now alarmingly common, especially near disputed territories like Scarborough Shoal and Second Thomas Shoal. China's powerful Coast Guard blocks Philippine vessels, leading to tense standoffs and recently the use of water cannons. The Philippines is on the front line, facing immense pressure from China's naval power. President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. has condemned these actions, warning that China's recklessness could spiral out of control. The danger isn't just at sea. Chinese fighter jets have also buzzed Philippine surveillance planes, adding an aerial threat. Every patrol or resupply mission now carries the risk of disaster. These incidents aren't isolated. They're part of a broader strategy to intimidate and dominate. Sailors and military personnel from multiple nations are at risk every day. The international community is watching, fearing that a tense encounter could turn tragic at any moment. The stakes are high, and the margin for error is shrinking. The South China Sea has become a powder keg, with every new confrontation pushing the region closer to the brink. The world is left wondering, how much longer before a small incident triggers a much larger conflict? The Philippines, outgunned but defiant, stands its ground. China's actions are testing not just regional stability, but the resolve of the world. The next move could decide the fate of the entire Indo-Pacific. The world holds its breath as the crisis deepens. China's tactics at sea are dangerously aggressive, violating international rules meant to keep the seas safe. Risky chases, close-range intercepts, and water cannon attacks are now routine. A recent collision between a Chinese Navy destroyer and a Coast Guard cutter, while both pursued a Philippine vessel, exposed the dangers of China's own strategy. The involvement of a warship in what should be a Coast Guard matter is a major escalation, blurring the line between law enforcement and military action. This increases the risk of miscalculation and potential armed conflict. A single fatality could trigger a military response, pushing the region closer to war. Despite these risks, China shows no sign of changing course. Beijing's persistence means future accidents are almost inevitable. Every nation in the South China Sea, from local fishermen to US warships, faces this elevated risk. The region is a powder keg, and China's aggressive strategy is the match. The world is watching, waiting to see if anyone will light it. The stability of the Indo-Pacific hangs in the balance. The stakes have never been higher. The United States is not standing by. In response to rising tensions, it deployed the USS Higgins and USS Cincinnati near Scarborough Shoal in a freedom of navigation operation. These missions challenge China's sweeping claims and assert the right to open sea lanes for all nations. US allies, Japan, Australia, New Zealand have joined in condemning China's actions. This united front sends a clear message. China's behavior is destabilizing and unacceptable. The US-Philippines Mutual Defense Treaty is the bedrock of their alliance. Every US move is closely watched, and the presence of American warships is a potent symbol of commitment. These deployments are meant to deter further Chinese aggression, but the US must walk a fine line, supporting its ally without escalating into direct conflict. The Navy's presence is both a security guarantee and a source of tension. A single miscalculation could have catastrophic consequences. The US is playing a high-stakes game of deterrence, aiming to prevent war, not start one. In these volatile waters, the path to peace is narrow. The world is watching every move. The next decision could shape the future of the region. China's actions are a direct test of America's alliances, especially with the Philippines. The 1951 Mutual Defense Treaty means an attack on one is a threat to both. China's harassment of Philippine vessels is designed to probe the limits of this agreement. The US has responded with clear statements and concrete actions, more joint exercises, advanced hardware, and a visible military presence. These moves are meant to show resolve and warn China against escalation. But with US attention divided by other global crises, Beijing may see an opportunity. If China believes America is distracted, it could push its claims even harder. The South China Sea is now a dangerous flashpoint. Every standoff tests the credibility of the US-Philippines alliance. The region's stability depends on this alliance holding firm. If it breaks, Asia's security landscape could be changed forever. The pressure is on, and the world is watching. The outcome will shape the future of the Indo-Pacific. The stakes could not be higher. The recent collision was a chilling reminder of how quickly things can spiral. The Philippines' defense treaty with the US means any serious incident could trigger American involvement. A single fatality or major damage could force Manila to request US military assistance, risking direct confrontation with China. Minor disputes now have the potential to become global crises. Experts warn that China's reckless tactics make a fatal accident almost inevitable. Political pressure to respond with force would be immense, and even a limited military response could escalate rapidly. Despite the risks, China shows no sign of backing down. Both sides remain on high alert, preparing for the worst. A small misstep could ignite a much larger conflict. The line between standoff and war is dangerously thin. Sailors from all sides operate under immense pressure, their professionalism the only barrier to catastrophe. With each new incident, the odds of a mistake grow. The world is holding its breath, hoping restraint prevails. The next incident could change everything. After the damaging collision, China didn't retreat, it doubled down, increasing its maritime presence. This show of force is meant to project strength and control, signaling that China won't be deterred by setbacks or condemnation. China is testing American resolve, watching for any sign of hesitation. If the US appears distracted, Beijing may seize the moment to push its claims. At the core is China's sweeping claim to nearly the entire South China Sea, rejected by an international tribunal in 2016. China ignores this ruling, using its Coast Guard and maritime militia to enforce its will. These gray zone tactics stop short of war, but create constant pressure. The goal, slowly change the facts at sea until China's control becomes reality. It's a strategy of attrition, betting that smaller nations will eventually give in. China is rewriting the maritime map of Asia, driven by pride, resources, and a desire for dominance. The cost is high, but Beijing seems willing to pay it. The world is left to respond, or accept, a new status quo. The contest for the South China Sea is far from over. The next move could reshape the region. Despite overwhelming odds, the Philippines refuses to back down. At 2nd Thomas Shoal, the rusted BRP Sierra Madre stands as a symbol of defiance, manned by a handful of Marines. Resupply missions to this outpost are flashpoints for confrontation, but Manila won't abandon it. US support is vital. Joint patrols and military assets provide a deterrent and boost Philippine confidence. Still, the risks are enormous. Philippine sailors face daily threats of collision and escalation. President Marcos calls for de-escalation and adherence to international law, warning of tragic consequences if China's behavior continues. The Philippines walks a tightrope, defending its territory while avoiding all-out war. This stand has earned international respect and made Manila a voice for smaller nations facing coercion. The sailors who run the blockades are national heroes, embodying courage against the odds. The future of the South China Sea is being contested every day. The Philippines holds a lonely but determined line. The world is watching their stand. The outcome remains uncertain. The South China Sea isn't just a regional dispute, it's a global issue. 1/3 of all maritime trade passes through these waters, carrying trillions in goods. Any conflict here would disrupt global supply chains, causing shortages and price spikes worldwide. The principle of freedom of navigation is at stake. China's actions challenge the rules that keep the seas open. If China succeeds, it sets a precedent for other powers to make similar claims elsewhere. The region is rich in oil, gas, and fish, resources vital to millions. Disputes over these resources could easily escalate, threatening regional and global stability. The 2016 tribunal ruling rejected China's claims, but Beijing ignores it, undermining international law. If powerful nations can ignore legal rulings, the world becomes more dangerous. The South China Sea standoff is a test of the global order. The outcome will shape the future of international law and peace. The world cannot afford to look away. What happens here affects us all. The future of the South China Sea is deeply uncertain. China's aggression, the Philippines' resolve, and America's involvement have created a volatile environment. Instability here threatens global trade and security. Military drills and deployments increase the risk of miscalculation. A single mistake could trigger a major international crisis. The only path forward is diplomacy and respect for international law. A long-negotiated code of conduct must be finalized to prevent accidents. But with China unwilling to compromise, a quick diplomatic breakthrough seems unlikely. The world is watching as the next moves by China, the Philippines, and the US will determine the region's fate. Restraint and dialogue must replace confrontation. The stakes are too high for failure. The peace of the Indo-Pacific hangs in the balance. The call for calm has never been more urgent.